got him to switch it up.
You know what I mean? Like it is.
If you're wondering what my one talent was, it's that.
I want you to welcome to the stage three awesome gentlemen. This is Koerri, Daniel, and Lakota. They're going to talk over about probably the next 45 minutes or so, 30, 45 minutes, about how you can read it right there on the screen, how comics kind of influence and create real heroes in life. They got some really great personal stories to tell. They're from Chicago area? Kenosha. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give these guys the stage. Enjoy.
All right. Hello. How's everybody doing today? Everyone's good. Great. Well, thank you, Chuck. We appreciate the introduction. My name is Koerri Elijah. I'm here with Daniel and Lakota, and we're here to just talk about. I'm sorry. Just get a little closer to the mic. Sorry about that. There we go. There you go. All right. Sorry about that. I'm Koerri Elijah. I'm here with Daniel Thompson and Lakota. We are going to be talking about how comics help create actual heroes in real life. So, of course, there's the cliche, maybe firefighter or police officer story, which, is a great story, not taking anything away from that.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I feel like comic books help influence even normal day-to-day people step up and become heroes, and maybe it's just in a moment. Sometimes it's, in their careers, whatever it may be. So we have a few personal stories that we'll probably share, and of course we'll take some audience Q&A if you guys have any questions or any personal stories that you would like to share, moments that maybe you were inspired to step up and help people out with as well. So this is great to be here at a Comic-Con. I'm glad that everybody could be out and we could join each other and experience great things like
definitely.
Entertainment and comic books and collectibles and all this great stuff that we have at cons. So
I mean, I don't want to like steal anything away, but we had this conversation like 3 or 4 times today. Like I'm just like thrilled just to be here. Like just being here is like the end all be all right now for me. So
it's been a wild past few years or so. We could say
it has.
So like Chuck mentioned, we come from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Some people may be familiar with the place. Of course, it's a Chicagoland. Louder? Yell? Can you guys hear me good now? We good? Okay, sorry about that. I'm used to being able to just control it on my own.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Sorry about that. But like I mentioned, we come from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Some of you may be aware of, there's been some ups and downs. There's even some continuing things that are going on in the city that we come from. But throughout it all, there were situations, at least speaking for myself, situations that, I was definitely inspired by the lifestyle that I lead as a comic book fan, as someone that, looks to these stories to kind of find inspiration in my life. I never knew that I would actually maybe apply some of the stories that I've learned in, my partaking of comic books. But sometimes you're dealt hands that you have to just play the hand, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
So we're not gonna make it's not political what we're gonna talk about. We're just gonna talk about a situation that may have happened to be a political situation and occurrences that may have happened throughout that. So some people may know there is a lot of unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where we come from. And all three of us, as content creators, as journalists, as people that are just members of the community, we all were out and we were all kind of documenting what was going on with the situation. And of course, like Daniel, his stories, he has a great story, of course. But for me personally, I kind of just, as a member of the community, someone that is born and raised in the city, that has seen the community kind of grow over, my few decades of life. I really wanted to see what was happening, as a kind of a fly on a wall, objectively look at the situation and kind of see everything play out, right? Throughout it all, things kind of escalated quickly. Some people may be aware of. And the situation like quickly became a situation where I had to make a decision. Was I just going to remain, objective and kind of just a fly on the wall and see what was going on in the whole situation, or was I going to, involve myself in a situation that I felt was necessary? So what ended up happening, long story short, is there's grievances. Clearly, there's two parties. If people look into the backstory of what happened in Kenosha, there's grievances. There's two parties, but the situation quickly became a situation that wasn't just between the two parties. It became a situation where it seemed like everything was fair game. And as an observer, and as a community member, it was something that I felt I was kind of forced to put myself in. There is a situation where we have in our downtown area, we have a park. There's museums and there's like our courthouse and all of this stuff. So there is a giant group of people in the a giant group of people within the park. It kind of leaks out into the area by the courthouse, leaks out to the area by the museum. It's a dinosaur museum, very cool dinosaur museum. We have artifacts that were found in Wisconsin, fossils and things, rare pieces that were in this museum that could not be replaced. So as things are escalating, there's masked people out, doing things that I wouldn't say, I guess we could say villains would do in a way.
Yeah.
Just you creating situations that we didn't need. One of them in which started to try to burn down the museum in our town. And I was faced with the realization of, oh man, this isn't just, people getting together and, having their voices being heard. This is something more than that now. And now there's, the community in a way is at risk. So at that moment, I was kind of faced with a decision I had to make. Am I going to just not say anything and just allow this museum to be burned down that, I went to as a child, that I bring my kids to now today? Or am I going to say something about it? Am I going to try to stop these people? And in that instant, it may have been subconsciously, but all of the stories that, I've read throughout my life, through comic books, that, a situation kind of just arises and you have to make a decision. Are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to do the wrong thing? Or are you just going to say nothing at all, which in my opinion would also, in that situation, would be the wrong thing. So I decided, hey, this may not be the best thing for me to do. This may not be the safest thing that I could do, because clearly people are disgruntled. Clearly people do not care, and they'll burn down this building. So who knows what may happen to me. But in that moment, I just had to, make the decision to have a rally cry to say, hey, what are we doing here? Like, what is going on? Like, who are you? Like, are you even a member of this community? How could you want to treat your community this way? Why would you want to burn down something that, we all utilize, for our kids? And, there's arguments that can be had about maybe buildings don't really matter, things like that. But, when it comes to community and it comes from small towns, especially towns like where we come from, we don't get much. And when you take something away, it may be 20, 30, 50 years before we get something back, And when you have priceless things like, fossils and things of that nature that can't be replaced, it seems like, at least in my opinion, it was worth me kind of stepping up. By doing that, clearly some people were disgruntled. In my opinion, some people even were maybe even plotting to harm me in the situation, but luckily, by being that voice, I was able to rally other people to maybe even snap a few people out of, maybe the trance they may have been in or whatever, and got them to actually realize, like, wait, yeah, what he's saying actually does make sense. What are we doing here? And, I can thankfully say that we still have the dinosaur museum. You know, it's been over a year later and it's still there.
Plus,
so.
you got your title. What was it, Defender of the Dinosaur Museum? Like there was a whole thing with you.
Yeah, I got they gave me like a certificate, lifetime membership to the museums in the city and everything. It's worth it to do the right thing, I would say.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my story. I mean, let's.
Well, there's a part of that though that's really important. If I remember, that dinosaur museum is all funded by taxpayer money. Like there's no fee to get in. So this is something that, because if it's lost, it's gonna, like you said, it is gonna be a long time before something comes up. I mean, they're not. This isn't. You don't pay to go in. This is one of those things that once it's gone, it's gone. And the building itself is a landmark. It was originally a post office and all that other stuff. So there's a lot more behind it than just the fact that it was a dinosaur museum. It's a dinosaur museum that was funded by the community, for them to enjoy something and see something that came out of where they're at.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't smile at me because I know I said I wasn't going to talk. That's dumb.
I mean, you're doing well. How about you? How about you take the next one, man?
Okay. As we know, the discussion is about how comics create real heroes, and as you've already said, there's the drive to maybe be a doctor or an EMT or something, or firefighter or something like that. I think one of the things that I was having a conversation with you about today that is really just important is that it can be a mindset. A lot of times we can take the stories of from heroes, from Batman, from Superman, from Captain America, and take a look at those and kind of make those a piece of our moral compass, right? We can look at that and say, hey, you know, that's wrong. Bullies, right? Like nobody likes really bullies, and so one of the situations, I don't know that I don't want to say it was a hero moment. Because I don't want to give the wrong impression, but I have someone that I'm very proud of because they stood up to a bully. How they handled it, you know, mom and dad don't agree, but this young person took it upon themselves. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Took it upon themselves to stand up to a bully that was being a bully in their class, and I know that. A lot of it falls on us as parents to teach these things, but let's be honest. You know, work, lives, you know, we do the best that we can, and whenever our children can take a look at a series like Captain America, like, come on, the ultimate, besides Superman, right, the apple pie, moral compass is just true north, blah, 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 and Goku and things like that. So when they can take those morals and look at them and say, hey, you know, this is a great thing, you know, standing up for these people, even though, you know, it might get me in trouble, is the right thing to do, right? That's very important. And sometimes we can't teach it ourselves because maybe I'm just not in the moment, right? But they can read it, they can learn about it, and they can say, hey, if it's wrong, I want to be the guy that stands up. That's what I think that can really be learned from comics. I truly believe that, yes, you're right, you can be a doctor, you can be all this, but I think that it can have an impact on who you are and how you see the world and, you know, how you interact with it. Are you going to be the guy that stands by and quietly does nothing, or are you going to be the person that says, hey, you know, that might not be right. Let's not do that.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. So, I'm Daniel Thompson. So, to kind of understand my story and how it connects with comics, so I am a journalist, and I've been a journalist for 9 years. Last year, I was working at Kenosha News around the time of what they call civil unrest, because that term's pleasant enough for people to use, I guess, in Kenosha. And what happened, and this is a much larger argument than I am going to dip into right now, but I started to realize from the inside that the company that my newspaper was owned by was intentionally putting more things out there, highlighting things about the unrest that led to us increasing our page views by millions, instead of things that would try to actually help the city in cool kind of passions. So what happened was that I was at a peaceful kind of rally, and during that somebody said something, a speaker, that was not scripted, he wasn't really part of it. And this was around the time that we had like every national outlet and everything in Kenosha. And once he said it, I knew somebody would use it, because you hear the quote was, if they kill one of ours, it's time to kill one of yours, or something like that. Totally outlying quote. But you know that, like, wow, you can get a lot of page views with that if that's what you want. It would be distorting the truth as far as misrepresenting the whole thing, but yeah, if you tell people that was said, then they're gonna look at it. And so I figured, you know, a national publication would do it, because traditionally they don't care as much about the smaller city. But it was my paper, Kenosha News, that did it. So when I read it, I immediately reached out to my boss. And it took 20 minutes of a conversation that went nowhere for me to send him my letter of resignation, because I didn't want to be any part of that, as far as just trying to sensationalize something for page views when it's only adding to tensions in your community and it's misrepresenting what everybody else is seeing. So the day after I did that, I get called by a New York Times reporter. So for the next few months, I'm talking to different people, because apparently me quitting my job was newsworthy. So I started GoFundMe, and people gave me $45,000. So that was cool. And I was in this position where suddenly I was gaining a lot of recognition, not only as a journalist, which gave me legitimacy, because I never went to J school. I was an English major, and I got into journalism through an internship and worked my way up. So I always had this kind of illegitimate concern in the back of my head, like other journalists look at me and they're like, he's not really one of us. So you get this kind of attention and this legitimacy, and you realize that you've gained so much of a reach, you've gained so much power, to put it in a different, more traditional sense. And then you have to decide, what are you gonna do with that? And there was one comic that kind of stuck out in my head, because when I was thinking about people or characters that had to deal with power beyond measure, and especially how they were able to toe the line or stay good in that situation. So the comic that struck me was All-Star Superman. And of course that's the one where Superman, through a plan with Lex Luthor, gets exposed to, trying to think of, it's like a whole mess of sun radiation and everything, and it changes his cells, and he's basically slowly dying, but he's more powerful than ever as he's dying. And so through that comparison of suddenly being kind of like Superman in that story of suddenly I am more powerful than ever, but because I've covered viral stories before, you know you're not staying at that viral place. Like, nobody's giving me 45,000 every like few months, you know? That's not happening. I know I have a very limited time to do as much good as possible with my influence before my 15 minutes is up. So using that example of knowing you have so little time and there's so much more you could do, but I realized that what's important, I couldn't stand up for my community, get money, and then be like, peace. So I had to just kind of think about why I even quit my job and then stick to that emotional place. So what I ended up doing is the $45,000, I gave half back to Uptown Kenosha, which was burned down in the riots. And then any time that I saw a GoFundMe or anything for a local musician or local person, I gave them money. I would, if it was a small amount, 500 to 1,000, I'd fund the whole thing. And then I gave my last dollar away to some business like 2 months ago, before I finally picked up a part-time job after being out of work for a year and just surviving off of volunteerism and my own publication that I started, the Uptown Observer, and things like that. And throughout the entire process, any time that I felt that ego, any time I felt like, you know, this community doesn't deserve this, because I was getting a lot of, as much positive things, I was also getting negative things. So there's bitterness that you can let take root. But the whole time I kept thinking about All-Star Superman. It would be so easy for Superman, who gave this character who gave everything to the world, an alien his whole life, had to hide who he was, and yet still spent his last days saving a world that would never really understand him, would never be able to give the same thing back to him, and would never really be home in the way that it is for, let's say, you and me. It made it easier to think about that, hold that in my mind and my heart, and go all the way to the end, still trying to be good and do the most good with the little power that I had. So that's kind of how I connected. That's how I would say that comics and superheroes influenced real life. I'm not going to call myself a hero. I'm just somebody who did something. Anybody can do something. So I guess if a hero is just somebody who does something, we can all be heroes by just doing something. So for one, if you want to be a hero, do something. So keep that in mind. And two, I think that characters like Superman and characters like Batman, which, if we're honest, I'm totally more a Batman than a Superman. Like, I am not that good. They offer places to go with advice, with guidance, with emotions, and with imagination that we're just uncomfortable to go as ourselves. And that's why I appreciate them, and I think that's why they make heroes, is they allow us to imagine ourselves as something better, and then we can become that.
Take the building blocks and go from there.
Yep.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think as well, kind of just to bounce off what you said, and then also kind of to go back to what Lakota was saying as well. Just these stories, you know, it's, you can't live 1,000 lives, right? So there's a lot of storylines that you'll never get to play out yourself.
Oh yeah.
Or you'll never experience. But the abundance of these different storylines where you're faced with these decisions, you know, or faced with adversity, or faced with, you know, just not feeling like you're the best. You know, I really like, I should say, Peter Parker for that aspect. You know, he dealt with so much throughout, you know, his entire teenage years, his upbringing, dealing with being a superhero, but then also dealing with being a regular teenager, dealing with all of the things that a teenager has to deal with, on top of trying to save the world after school as well, you know? And even though I don't have the same background as Peter Parker, you know, maybe I don't even have the same life experience as Peter Parker, I'm able to at least look at his experiences and maybe apply those to my life, you know? Maybe people haven't really ever bullied me much, but I can understand what it's like in a way to be bullied, even though I've never felt it really myself. Okay. When it comes to, you know, like being bullied by a jock or whatever it may be. But I can understand that because I've seen the stories. I've seen how Peter Parker has had to deal with it, you know? And even though it wasn't me, I can still kind of find a way to create empathy for people and those situations. And maybe not do some of the things maybe some of the bullies are doing subconsciously, you know?
Yeah, and also I think it's like, so the way that I think, like, it's also just easy, and sometimes it's easier to say, use Superman or Batman or Spider-Man or anybody as an example, is this. The thing is this, is that honestly, it's simple. Is that they're easy to ingrain in our mind, and it's almost like old fables or anything like that. Like, for some reason, they just stick somewhere floating near the forefront. So, like, as weird as it is, like, sometimes when you're like, I have no idea what to do in this situation, what would Peter Parker do? Like, maybe don't say it out loud, but
right.
like,
I mean, you'll get some looks if you do, but yeah.
Sometimes it's just easier to just be like, what would Superman do? Like, I don't know. It's like a dumb little thing, but it's like, honestly, you can take apart the personality and be like, okay, well, some of that resonates with you, and maybe that like brings out your own kind of, not heroic, but yes, Lakota.
No, I wanted to kind of go off of that because I've noticed like obviously we all interact on, or we see each other on Facebook, blah blah blah. Have you guys? I've seen some of the stuff that you've shared. It's pretty public. Like, hey, growth in the last year.
Yeah.
I would you say that you have felt yourself be more cognizant and aware and more conscientious of trying to grow within the last year? And only reason I bring that up is because within the last year, I really feel like not that Lakota still isn't selfish, because Lakota is still a jerk and can be a jerk, and I don't intend to. That's not my goal. But I'm a lot more conscientious of saying, wait, how would Peter Parker, how would the doctor, address this? Is this really the road that you want to go down? Would you say that you're more aware, or that you're making more effort, or what would you guys say?
Well, for one, Daniel Thompson is a perfect biracial angel. But no, no, I find myself okay, we just talked about this a little bit ago, actually, because
30 minutes ago.
Yeah, literally. So I
had to eat. Sorry, guys.
I'm very aware of the growth over the last year. Like the last year feels like 5 to 10 years for me, really. Like just how much was in it, how much I had to deal with, and just how much changed both in me and outside of me. But we were also talking the best way to describe kind of the feeling for me at the moment. I'm very satisfied with what I did. I'm proud of it. I'm happy. But it's like being Frodo at the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where he's just everybody else is happening. He's just yeah, guys, I'm just going to kind of fade out there. It's not for me anymore. Yeah.
It wears on you, right, Koerri?
Yeah, I mean, anything's going to do that, though, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
that's just kind of my philosophy on life. I just kind of roll with the punches personally. But, I've done my best to try to look at situations, but, I mean, in a way, I've kind of always tried to, look at the past and look towards the future to kind of figure out where I'm trying to go,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say I have, but it is what it is. Life goes on.
I want to say that I try to be more helpful, and I try to be more understanding, because a lot of the things that really made some things explode last year was that everybody wanted to yell at each other instead of one person just had to sit there and just take it. If only just one person would have just sat there and been I'll take the yelling and then I'll try to calm things down instead of everybody fighting all the time. Right. That's kind of what I try to be now. Just be that calm person that can get yelled at and just calm down a room. That's my level right there.
All you got to do is just talk into a mic with your voice and then get everybody.
Yeah.
So we do want to make sure that if anyone does have any questions or experience anything, we do have the mic open in case anyone does want to inject in the conversation at all. If not, we will keep things rolling, but we do want to just make sure that we let people know about that. So moving forward, what would you say now that we've made it kind of past, I suppose, the top of the hill, and now we're rolling back down to go back up the hill or whatever it is. With your situation specifically, because a lot has changed for you. It definitely has made you think, inward and then outward with media as well.
Yeah.
How would you compare yourself, or what would you compare yourself to going forward? I know you were looking to Superman throughout everything. What's the position? What would you like to model yourself as moving forward?
Moving forward, honestly, so my ultimate goal, endpoint, always is going to be the end of whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, I think, if that's what I think. Yeah, where, it's just Jordan Elliott winking at, that's my ultimate ending. I just fade out. I get to live the other life separated from, everything that I did as a journalist and everything like that. I still have things that I want to do. I want to be able to support more independent journalists through, my thing and all that. But I think when I think of comic things now, it's funny. I don't think of being Superman anymore, really. I more pay attention to like Jonathan Kent characters and people like that because not everybody can be Superman, but you can help create Superman by being a Jonathan Kent, by being that mentor or something that helps shape these maybe future heroes, whether it be police, firefighters, or legit, if there's some kid who can fly someday, please be nice to him. I really don't want to deal with that. But like, I look at the characters that influence heroes as I get kind of older and everything like that, because I realize that there's a time to pass the torch or to make sure that the next group has the base that we worked for so that they can actually push things further than we did and not just fight to get to where we were.
I feel that. I was going to say, like, for me, which is kind of parallel with yours in a way, but I'd say my approach would be more Dick Grayson, get the Titans together and, show the young bucks how to, do it and maybe emulate my style a little bit, but then also go out and do their own thing, how they want to do it. What about you, Lakota?
Oh, wow. Selfishly, Batman, because I want the money. I mean, come on, let's be honest. If we're being honest, the money would help out a lot. But
Dick Grayson also has access to the money.
And he's better socially.
To be honest with you, I see myself as one of the characters that I really truly did always seem to like was Batman, but there was always the storylines were about growth in some way, shape, or form, especially in the area of the New 52, where it was about how he can grow instead of just being constantly pissed and angry and trapped in his own little mind about what was, and he took that as an opportunity to grow, and how those storylines kind of pushed him forward and added. I mean, let's be honest, the character of Batman always had depth, right? But it took it to another level to where he started to question his own moral compass and say, okay, am I doing too much? Am I doing it the right way? Am I creating the next generation of heroes in the right way? Or am I just doing what needs to be a means to an end? I think that is where I used to be, I don't care how it gets done as long as it gets done.
Right.
And now I don't want to do that. Now what I want to do is, okay, I want it to get done, but I want it to get done to where nobody's getting hurt. I want the next person to see me and say, hey, that right there, that's how you do it. And I think that's the New 52 Batman, I guess, would be kind of where I want to be. I want to grow and continue to do that.
You talking about Snyder's run?
Yes.
Dude, I love the New 52 Snyder's run is my favorite. I think Batman run.
I mean, it's great, and then the storytelling is just awesome. So I'll get off on a tangent, so we won't do that. But is that Walter White? I'm so sorry. I got completely distracted by the cosplay. So is that not Walter White?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
is.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So yeah, that's what I was looking at as far as where I see myself, and hopefully in line with Batman lineage, handing down the lineage in the proper way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as we could say some of your favorite people, right?
Do they have to be real?
They don't have to be real.
Okay.
But who would I just realistically want to know, since we have a little time here. So
Okay.
let's unpack a top 5 for the end of the show here, because we're
Okay.
getting to the last 10 minutes or so.
Me first?
Yeah, go ahead. take
Okay.
it forward.
So
I'll go last. You go, and then I'll end it off.
Gotcha. Oh man.
You have to give us reasons why as well.
So first of all,
Just 10 minutes ago.
Gosh. Well, first of all, my kids, because I can learn from them. That's the best part of being a parent, is that I can learn from them how to be a little bit better of a human being. I'm not sucking up, I'm just saying Koerri, because I wouldn't even be here without it, so cool.
Just say my work is good.
Peter Capaldi. He plays the 12th Doctor on Doctor Who. I think his run goes in line with the Batman reason why I like him, his growth as that character. And then I'll be honest with you, I don't have a lot of like real like politicians and all that. That doesn't really do it for me. So all of mine are either going to be fictional or
Fictional works.
Goku. Like I understand.
Usually better, honestly.
I mean, I understand the reason why people love Piccolo and Vegeta, but Goku, he's like in the vein of a Captain America and a Superman, the goody two shoes, who no matter how hard you push his buttons, he can push through, and he will, and he'll do it the right way. Well, maybe he'll take a shortcut or two, but that's what it is. That's 5, right? My kid. I said both my kids,
Yep.
so I count them as 2.
Oh no! You
He's
gotta
the one
give us
that
one
keeps
more.
track.
You gotta give us one more.
Okay. Let me see here. Man, and talk about putting me on the spot. I honestly, yep, nope, drawing a blank. That is so sad. I really probably should get out more. That really says a lot about what I do with my life.
Any
I mean, we had this talk, Dan. I don't do anything except for veg in the house, so it is what it is.
5.
Yep.
All right, so top 2, my parents. Not just because people just say their parents. Like I legit I'm friends with my parents now as I get older. We talk about a lot of things, and I appreciate them as much as people as I do as the people who just had me and decided to keep me. So it's like we have a pretty good relationship. Third, I'm gonna say, not by name. Let's say somebody that I call Chewy because being around them makes me pretty happy. Let's see, we got a 4th. I would say my 4th. You know what? 4th, I'm just gonna lump as a group because I'm gonna go with Kino AF because you and Ron. Lakota, you're somewhere in the periphery because you didn't mention me.
Well, I want to know how come you get to slide on your parents being 1 and 2, but I can't slide on my 2 kids. That's what I want to know.
Because they
Oh,
were
dude,
made,
I'll
your
come up
kids
with
were
it.
made individually, and his parents were hawk and dove.
As far as, truthfully, when it comes to comics characters, Batman is my go-to because he's, to me, the most complex. And you can do so much stuff with that. And especially the longer time goes on, Batman changes so much that he lives up to, he is almost always the villain in the future. Almost always a villain. Or just an old grumpy old man. Like he's never like some happy makes apple pies old man, like that's not his future. And then what? I'll throw out one because it will leave with a good thought. So I had a counselor when I was in high school named Mr. Newbarth. And I used to visit him to talk about some things, just as you're like a teenager and you're trying to figure things out and you're lost. And he told me something that I'll say out loud now just in case, and it could be useful to anybody else. And it was, he said, some people go through life and they never figure it out. But I know you'll figure it out. That's a simple thing, I don't know, but just that reassurance, that has carried me for years and years and years. So I'll do that as my last top 5.
Ooh,
Nice.
nice. And for me, I guess, I have like a weird, dark, superhero backstory.
I know.
So shouts out to my parents in the everlasting universe, wherever they may be. So I'll cop out and cheat like you guys did. And I'll use them I'll just take one spot for that. I will say a personal person before I go into fictional characters, because I could have done all fictional characters to be honest. But hey, I'll match you guys where you are. We'll go with I'll go with my 7th grade social science teacher, Mrs. Armstrong. She lived down the street from me. So unbeknownst to me, I grew up in a neighborhood that was like littered with teachers. So like retired teachers, current teachers, teachers that have been like teachers for 30 years. So she lived a couple blocks from me. And she would like, I don't know, she would just help me out, you know? She would like give me rides to school, she'd give me motivation, we would talk about different stuff, and she instilled in me, she was like, I know you can do whatever you want to do, so just go and be great, because you'll be great at whatever you try. And, you know, that kind of just stuck with me, because, you know, hearing that from someone that's, you know, has a completely different background than you, is already kind of established. Also, everybody thought she was mean, and I thought she was the nicest lady ever, so that was kind of cool. So it was like, so that definitely stuck with me. So Mrs. Armstrong, I have to do the Flash, Barry Allen, the Flash. I mean, I like Wally West as well, but Barry Allen, just, you know, dealing with life and, like, you know, growing up, not having, you know, the traditional, I guess, like upbringing and family structure or whatever it may be. Sometimes I kind of wish I could like go back in time and like see what was going on, or like get answers to certain things, or maybe even change the timeline if I could, and have my own little Flashpoint situation. But, you know, kind of just growing and reading those comics and getting into Flashpoint and seeing what happens with, you know, it helped me kind of cope with life in a way, you know? And that's why the Flash is my favorite superhero, because it helped me as a young kid and in my teenage years, and now even as an adult, I still, you know, I gotta keep up with the Flash. So I gotta have the Flash in there, which gives me 3. 2, I'm gonna go with Vegeta, because I'm gonna switch it up and I'll do some manga. Everybody likes Goku, but I feel like Vegeta is, you know, he has that redemption story. You know, everybody lives a life. You know, you don't always necessarily do the right thing all of the time, especially when you're in ignorance of certain things, right? When your entire, you know, civilization and race has been, you know, wiped off, and your planet's gone, and then it's just you and your uncle, and he's like, you know, so seeing him go from where he was to where he is as a family man with kids, and he cares about his wife and loves her, and he, like, you know, cooks food for her and all of this stuff, and like the one thing that will just make him go off is his wife. You know, I got to give it to Vegeta. You know, I see slight parallels between us. So there's Vegeta, and then the last one, because this will be, that'll be last. I got to go with Deku from My Hero Academia. I know I'm getting all manga-y, but I'm also wearing the uniform, so I figured that we'll throw him in there just because, you know, I feel like his story is a story that every kid at a young age should kind of latch themselves to, or at least read. Just seeing how, you know, growing up in society and being considered, I suppose, less than because he doesn't have a quirk. But then eventually, you know, he gets a quirk. Spoiler alert, sorry about that, but he gets one for his own reasons. But even after getting one, struggling with it, trying to catch up to everybody, and just knowing that everyone isn't always equal, but just because you're not equal doesn't mean that you don't have your own special great things about yourself. So that's why I would go Deku for number 1.
Nice.
Midoriya, I'll call him Izuku. Give him some respect.
So I just want to tack onto something, because you did say something. I think the way I want to approach it now is if I want to aspire to be a Goku, but I'm all right with my redemption story being a Vegeta.
Ooh, we got him to switch it up.
You know what I mean? Like it is.
If you were wondering what my one talent was, it's that. But man, that was awesome. But I think we're about at time here, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. I appreciate everybody sticking around for the panel. I have been Koerri Elijah. This is Daniel Thompson. This is Lakota Lichtwalt. If you'd like to, we do stuff like this all of the time on social media, so you could follow us. Literally, my name is spelled Koerri. If you look it up, I'm the only person that comes up with that name, so very easy to follow.
Lose, Deadpool, I'm coming for you.